So you know what? Every dark night tests you, but it also quietly prepares you down, right? So every loss you thought broke you, was actually rebuilding you, right? People think pain weakens you, right? The pain actually weakens you, but the truth is something far deeper. Pain is the training ground of greatness, right? Pain is the training ground of greatness. So most people panic when life stops going their way. The wise don't. They understand that life doesn't remove what's meant for you. It refines you until you are strong enough to hold it. So here you are not actually falling behind. You're not actually falling behind. You are not feeling it, right? And you are definitely not done, right? So you are being shaped, sharpened and prepared for a version of life you can't imagine it, right? So I will start from the chapter 1, right? The dark night, why life actually breaks you first. So here every great story begins in darkness, as we know. Every legend's journey starts with confusion, loneliness, pain and silence, right? People don't talk about this, but the truth is the strongest peoples today were once the most broken. They had nights where they questioned everything, their worth, their dreams, their ability, their future. They have cried behind closed doors, lost people they loved, so failed at things they believed were guaranteed, and stood alone when they thought people would stay. But here's the twist, that those nights weren't punishments, they were blueprints. They were the moments that carved them, tested them, right? Cleaned them from illusions and forced them to meet their real selves, right? Real selves. So every dark night is life's way of saying, hold on. Just hold on, something big is coming, but first become strong enough to carry it, right? So chapter 2 is what? The psychology behind, pain turning into power. Here's the science, psychology, spirituality, here because of that, because of comfort protects you, but struggle evolves you, right? So, when life pushes you down, your mind learns survival, your heart learns patience, your character learns discipline, and your soul learns resilience, right? So you begin to see the world differently, you understand relationships better, you recognize fake people instantly, you discover your strength in silence, you value peace over attention, you learn who you truly are, not who the world told you to be, right? So this is growth, this is transformation, this is your rebirth. Just move on to the chapter 3, that the loss that makes you stronger than success ever could. So these are the two kinds of strength: the strength built by victories, strength built by surviving storms, right? Okay, the first point here, the first one gives you confidence, the second one gives you character, and character is greater than confidence always, right? So think about your own life, the moments that changed you, where the moments of success, or moments of heartbreak, betrayal, failures, loneliness, so every person becomes the wise only after three things, loss, pain, disappointment, right? So these three forces polish your personality like a sandpaper, right? Rough, painful, but extremely necessary, right? Because without loss, you would never appreciate value. Without pain, you wouldn't understand the strength. Without disappointment, you wouldn't learn how to choose better people. Now that's why you shouldn't cry over went wrong, right? You should thank life for clearing the way for what's right, right? So chapter 4 is what here, that being tuned for your song, the hidden purpose of struggle. A musical instrument doesn't play perfectly on the first try, right? We all knows that there is a struggle in it, when you start in a starting portion, when you start learning it, that instrument like guitar or anything else, that's actually tough. It must be tuned, tightened, adjusted, stressed and corrected, right? We have to tune it first, right? And that process isn't gentle, it's rough, it's uncomfortable, it's forceful, right? But only after that pressure, does the instrument produce music, your music, right? So life does the same with you, right? It actually stretches you through difficulties, through discomfort zone, right? It tightens your discipline, it actually adjusts your expectations, it breaks the old patterns, it removes the wrong people, it corrects your direction. Why? So you can finally play the song you were born to play, right? So your struggle is not the end of the story, it's a tuning moment before your melody begins, right? Chapter 5 is what here, why you needed the darkness. Let's be honest, you wouldn't be who you are today without the things you survived. That's heartbreak, that actually heartbreak. It tights, it taught you self-respect, that failure, it taught you hard work, it loneliness, that solitary lifestyle, it taught you independence, right? So here, that betrayal, it taught you boundaries, that struggle, it taught you strength, right? So darkness, that purpose, darkness has a purpose, right? Darkness has a purpose. It forces you to look inside, it removes the noise of the world, it actually introduces you to the version of yourself you didn't know existed, right? So the version that can survive, the version that can rebuild, the version that refuses to quit. So chapter 6 is what here, the rebirth, the rising with power. That comes the day, then comes the day, right? When everything start making sense, you look back and realize here, if that hadn't gone wrong, nothing wouldn't gone right. So you start rising without the fear you once had, you start growing without the doubts you once carried, you start living the purpose, you start walking with confidence, you start trusting yourself more than people, you realize how much you have changed, how much you have matured, how much stronger you have actually become, So this is your rebirth, a new version of you, the version that understands, everything happens for a reason, everyone lives for a reason, every struggle teaches a reason, and every setback, builds a reason. You don't rise despite your struggle, you rise because of it. Chapter 7 is what here, that the ultimate truth, your story isn't over. People think dark phases are permanent, but they are not. Pain isn't a prisoner. I mean to say, pain isn't a prison, it's a passage. No storm lasts forever, no night stays without a dawn, no winter stops the spring, and no struggle exists without meaning, right? So you are being prepared, you are being shaped, you are being built quietly. One day you will wake up and say, so this is why life tested me, and on that day, everything will fail. I'm going to say everything will gonna fall into place, right? So your doubts will vanish, your wounds will become wisdom, your scars will become stories, and your pain will become your power. So the final powerful message is what? The final conclusion of the point is here, don't fear the dark night. Don't fear the dark night. It's writing you down, right? Don't regret the loss. It's making a strength reborn. Don't cry over what went wrong. You are not being destroyed. You're being tuned for your song. And when that song finally plays, the world will know exactly why you had to go through everything you did. So this is your journey, your transformation, your rise, and trust me, your down is going to be worth every dark night you survived, right? So here, this is all about, I hope you learned a lot of things. So make sure you should share that particular content to your friends, whoever actually want to actually come into the reality check, right? Because we want to add ourselves into the reality check, right? If we don't get the clarification from that point, how could we understand how to connect ourselves, right, in an optimistic manner? How could we think the world in a positive manner? Don't try to stay don't try to indulge yourself into negativity, because there is no future of it, right? So the way we actually optimistically think positive, the way we actually manifest properly, the way we actually don't think negative for anyone else, not for ourselves, not for anyone else, right? Accordingly, our life will gonna be in a proper direction, what we want actually. So yeah, thank you so much. And if you liked it, then please subscribe to it and share it with the friends. Yeah.